Hey guys, Marco here and welcome to this video where I will show you how you can find the right audience on Facebook ads for your e-commerce products. So I will show you two different situations here. First of all, if you have a very general kind of product, so if you don't have a super niche specific one, then the technique to actually target people is different. And the second situation, I will show you how you best address people if you have a very niche specific product. Maybe you kind of know the strategy already, but especially the first one here, I think is something that most people are not trying or not using at all. So you probably know that if you have a very general kind of product, many people are trying to fit this super general product into a very niche specific audience. So for example, they have, like in my example right here, some general women accessories, and they try to fit this super broad product, like a very general scarf, into a very specific audience of like 100 or 200,000 people. And typically they do so by making a lot of assumptions on this audience and saying, for example, okay, my ideal customer has this and that and likes these pages and is interested in these communities. But typically they make these assumptions not based on a lot of research or because they have super high knowledge in this field, but because they just think that their ideal customer is in this space. So they go ahead and create these very tiny audiences, and very often they are actually not performing that well. So what I made very good experiences with for myself and clients is, if you have a broad audience, then give Facebook some room to optimize for this audience and keep things a little bit more general. So in my example right here, I imagine to sell like a women accessory thing, so like a scarf or something, and I came up with a very general kind of audience. So age 18 to 30, of course, women, because these are basically the two things that I know is the age group and the gender. And then I came up with some very general interests or behaviors. So in this case, engaged shoppers, which indicates that they clicked the Shop Now button in the past week. Also some general interests like fashion accessories, women's clothing, and women's fashion apparel buyers. So by layering all of these general interests, of course, I don't create a super targeted audience for one specific niche, but I created an audience where I can be quite sure that these women right here are actually interested in fashion accessory related products and that they are actually also somewhat engaging with these kind of products. So I end up with an audience of 1.4 million, which would be considered quite big, especially if you're starting out or if you have a small budget. But from my experience, it can be quite useful to come up with these big audiences if you have a super general product. And of course, in this scenario here, I have to basically, or you have to make sure that you have a good landing page, good products, that you have good descriptions and pictures, that you have a sales funnel in place, that you do remarketing, and that you have very compelling and entertaining or engaging ads. But when it really comes down to the targeting and to the very top of the funnel advertising, then you should keep this thing here in mind, that you should not artificially try to squeeze your very broad products into a very specific audience, because from my experience, this can go wrong in many cases. On the other hand, of course, let's say you have a very specific product, like for example, some very specific baby stuff, very specific baby products, you can immediately exclude like the majority of the population. So in my example here, I went with women aged 25 to 32. So I want to address like very young moms or young moms in general. And I came up with the demographics of new parents and parents with toddlers, and also some interests for certain baby brands. So I made a very quick research for some common baby brands, and I entered them here, at least some of them, and I came up with an audience of 230,000 people. And now basically I have an audience where I'm quite sure and quite confident that they fall into my product category, because a baby product is much more specific than some very general fashion product, which could potentially interest like almost any women out there. But a baby product, of course, you don't want to target super young people, you don't want to target super old people, and you probably also rather address women than men, and you can make a lot of other assumptions here. And of course, the most important thing here being a parent, that you can basically eliminate like 90% of the total population, or even more, like 95% or something like this. But, and this is the important part, you should only do this if you are very sure that this is actually where your target customer is. So here you can be quite sure that this would be somewhat some kind, or this might be your target customer. But in this case here, you won't be able to define the super perfect customer in a very broad sense, in a very specific sense. So if you have a very specific product, like in this case baby stuff, or products for specific pets, or like tennis or sports products, soccer, then you can of course go with soccer players or magazines about soccer and all these things, and you can put it together into one specific audience. But don't do this if you have a very broad audience. So these are basically the two different kind of general audience research techniques. Of course, this was just a simplification. This process normally takes longer, and you can use audience insights to dig deeper depending on your products and so on and so forth. But I really hope that this was of some help for you, especially if you're advertising a very broad product, a very general one that you don't or you didn't have the best results so far. This technique is something that I use myself and for my clients, and we have quite some success with it, and it's definitely worked better than coming up with super specific audiences all the time. So thank you for watching. I hope you liked it. If you want to learn more about e-commerce, dropshipping, marketing, please make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to learn more about the hidden traffic source that most e-commerce businesses are not using today, and if you want to get a competitive advantage, then please make sure that you look in the description and visit the link right there so that you can get a free case study on this traffic source. And yes, I hope that this brings your business forward. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.